Once a preacher boy was told he couldn't preach it straight and strong. The 10 Commandments and perhaps the Golden Rule. No one wanted him to tell them what was right and what was wrong. So he asked an old-time preacher what to do. Just preach Jesus, born and crucified and risen from the dead. Just preach Jesus as he paid for sin with the precious blood he shed. Lord and Savior, King of kings, Son of God and Son of man. Just preach Jesus until Jesus comes again.
Welcome to the all-new SGNP with your host, Daniel Britt, and Southern Gospel Music Association President and gospel music fan favorite Arthur Rice. Sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh, cry, and have a little fun. If you like what you hear today, please leave that 5-star review, subscribe to wherever you download podcasts, and listen. For back episodes of SGNP with some of your favorite people, go to www.southerngospelnewspodcast.com. What's wrong with living right anyway? Not one thing. And you're listening to SGNP.
Welcome to the Southern Gospel News Podcast. I'm Daniel Britt with Arthur Rice. Arthur, my friend, it's good to be with you again, and we got a great show today. But how has the return to cooler temperatures, been?
It's starting to cool down a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling that maybe it's trying to, but there's like a lot of false starts with this thing. But
yeah. We had a couple of weeks of reprieve with the heat, which is nice for golf, and I think it's returned.
Yeah. Of course, our friends out west, man, they can't catch a break, and I don't know, other than just to pray for relief. It just seems like, man, it's one thing after another over there.
Yeah.
We've got a great guest today. His name is Matthew Holt, and you've worked with Matthew through the years, I'm sure, off and on, haven't you?
Known Matthew for many years, and one of my favorite guys, just as a person, but I'm telling you, one of my favorite players. Incredible artist, and love Matthew and his family.
Well, I got to say, I think, and if nobody else has given him this title, I would be surprised, but I'm happy to give him the title of the hardest working man in gospel music, is my assessment, because he has so many things going on, both professionally, but also personally. Got a great family. We'll catch up with him here in just a moment. Matthew Holt, our guest. And in the meantime, I encourage you to check out the Facebook page, see what's happening. You can listen to past episodes. That's at Southern Gospel News Podcast. That's southerngospelnewspodcast.com, and straight ahead, Matthew Holt right here. Don't miss it.
Hey, this is Darren, and I'm here for my buddy Mike Lindell and My Pillow. That's right, My Pillow. I got to tell you a little secret, and this is a true story. The other day I'm laying in the bed, I looked at Mary and I said, I'm going to get me some new pillows today. She said, what do you need with new pillows? You got them. I said, I got one that's decent, and I didn't know which one it was. I mean, I knew which one it was, and I pulled the cover off of it, and it was only My Pillow. The rest of them were these ones that we bought from TJ Maxx or Target or Walmart or somewhere that just had worn out their welcome. And you know what, guys? I feel like I needed new pillows. And she said, well, why don't you call My Pillow, because you like the one you got there, and tell them what you're looking for, and they'll help you out. You know what I called, and guess what? They helped me out. They asked me what size I was. They asked me how I slept. Did I sleep on my back or on my side or on my stomach? What felt right? Feathers or, blah, 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 foam. They asked me all these questions. More questions than I ever dreamed about a pillow, and I got my new My Pillow in the mail, and I've slept right. You want that change in your life? It's real simple. 1-800-338-2330, 1-800-338-2330. Use the code word SGNP. That's right, the code word SGNP. And tell them you heard about this special offer. And when you use that code, you'll get a great discount from the folks at My Pillow. I use My Pillow. You should too. 1-800-338-2330. Use the code SGNP. My Pillow, the official pillow and sleep provider of Southern Gospel News Podcast.
Welcome back to Southern Gospel News Podcast. It's the main highlight of today's show. We've got pianist extraordinaire. You start there, but that's just scratching the surface. He's a great musician, and when you go deeper, great guy, great family man, and smart. I mean, this guy is, when you talk about teaching, I think you got to realize if you're going to be able to teach something to students, you got to know a little bit about what you're talking about, and that's the truth with Matthew Holt.
Man, you guys know how to make a guy feel pretty good about himself. That's awesome. Thank you.
Well, and I left off songwriter. You've got that too, or orchestrator, arranger. I mean, you've got all kind of things. Arthur, you jump in wherever you want to, but I would like to say Gaither Vocal Band pianist now. We go back and we remember a time with the Perrys. Let's go, from the Perrys on back. What was Matthew Holt doing before the Perrys? And go as far back as you want to go on that.
Well, I tell you, I joined the Perrys at the age of 19. So honestly, not much. Graduating high school and going to college, of course, that 1 year that I went before Tracy called and asked me to audition for the Perrys, and the rest is history, as they say. Yeah, I jumped on the bus at 19, and it's been crazy ever since, for sure. But grew up in small town USA over here in McKenzie, Tennessee, which is home of Bethel University, where we still are. Yeah, raising our family here and loving that. Working here, through the week, and then traveling on the weekends is wonderful. I brag to my buddies, on the road. I'm grateful to still live in McKenzie and get to travel like we do. Most folks have to move, but just close enough to Nashville, just 2 hours away, that I'm able to stay here and still get to the bus and leave out and do the road thing with the Gaithers but yet I'm 2 hours away, so I'm just far enough away to kind of disconnect from it as well, when we're not on the road, and that's pretty cool. Definitely healthy for the whole family atmosphere, and raising 4 kids and staying crazy busy with those things. So
you need that disconnect time, just to kind of where you can be just family, and just be Matthew. Not Matthew the piano player, not Matthew the teacher, or you can just be Matthew dad and husband.
Right. Well, little known fact about me, and one of my, I guess, most favorite claims to fame. I'm actually the announcer for the McKenzie Middle School baseball and softball teams.
Come on.
When I'm not doing all the other things, I get to sit in the press box, and that's been really cool, man. Of course, all of our kids are extremely athletic. They take after their mother in that regard. I'll put that in there. I did play baseball growing up, and Gaither, Mr. Gaither, does say that I am by far the most masculine piano player he's ever met, and I take pride in that. Our kids are very athletic, and we spend a ton of time, at the ballpark, which we love.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna be known for in your town, right? Yeah. At the end, when people are going to your funeral, they're going to go, now, who is this guy? He played with the folk band and all that. He taught it. I still don't know who he was the announcer at the ball game.
You're exactly right. Yeah. And I'm okay with that, man. I really
absolutely.
am. Well, just grateful to get to spend that time with the kids and to have the best seat in the house. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Well, and I'm sure you have there's probably a connection you have then with Gordon Mote, your predecessor there, because Gordon is big into sports, and I can see him being a play-by-play or a stadium announcer as well, in his spare time.
Yeah, Gordon has announced actually kind of the same deal for his son Parker's team. I know he's done some announcing for, and man, I love talking to Gordon about statistics.
Yeah,
you're not going to stump him, and I'm a Braves fan, and Gordon's a huge Braves fan as well, and he makes me feel inadequate to say the least when it comes to being a fan. He just knows he knows everything. Of course, I tell him at least I can see him play. No, he's pretty awesome, man. To talk to about that stuff.
Well, I want to pick back up on something because we got two gospel artists here, Arthur Rice and Matthew Holt, both of whom are outside of that Nashville, Tennessee bubble, so to speak. I mean, Arthur, I don't know if you ever lived in Nashville, but I know for a lot of years you weren't in Nashville and still aren't in Nashville, and same is true with Matthew. And I think it'd be awfully convenient as a musician to be in Nashville, but from that family perspective, to be able to disconnect and kind of experience life as a real person too, outside of the professional scene.
Yeah, I've never lived in Nashville before. I always loved the town, but I love, it's just a vibe. I don't know that I would always want to be a part of that vibe the whole time, but it is a cool place to visit.
Yeah. So Matthew, growing up, where did you get the music bug? Musician point of view, but also looking at it as a profession. I mean, maybe as a kid you just take it one step at a time and you start taking piano lessons, or you start saying I want to play in church, and then later you start setting your sights on, okay, maybe this could actually be something I do. And obviously at age 19, still pretty young age. And so maybe there's a two-part question there, but where'd you get bit, or was there a family influence?
Well, not really a family influence as far as the actual, musicianship side of things, but very heavily influenced by my family, specifically my dad and my mom. Growing up, they were gospel music fans, and specifically the Kingsmen. They were absolutely Kingsmen fans through and through. And anytime Jim Hamill and the guys were, within 2 hours of McKenzie, we were there. Mm-hmm. And the story goes, I'll be honest with you, I was so young, I don't remember this, but I'll take my parents' word. We were seeing the Kingsmen. This would have been, 1986, because I was 2 years old. I was born in 84. So 86 or 87, we were seeing the Kingsmen at a gymnasium. They were singing at a gym. And Mom and Dad said that I would not take my eyes off of Anthony Berger. Of course, he was playing for the Kingsmen at that time. 2 years old, they said I was glued to Anthony, and actually turned around on the bleachers and started mimicking, playing the piano on those bleachers as I was watching Anthony. And that's how simple the story is. At that point, they said, hey, we probably should get this kid a keyboard. And so they did. I'm almost positive it was like a Walmart Casio. Oh, I know it was Casio, and I think they bought it from Walmart. It had maybe like 18 or 20, keys on it. Considered today probably as a play toy,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't know. They said just a short time later. Well, I was 3. I do know that. That's what they say. We had been to church and got home that afternoon, and they were still in the kitchen area eating lunch. And they said out of nowhere, they heard the song Sweet Hour of Prayer coming from my bedroom. And they thought, man, he's hit one of those buttons or something, that makes it play itself.
Demo mode.
Pretty sure that they don't have Sweet Hour of Prayer on a Casio keyboard as a demo. So they came in to check it out. And I had picked it out, as a 3-year-old, just in my bedroom, playing around. And from there, obviously a couple of years later, at the age of 5 or 6 or so, put me in lessons so I could learn how to read music. But obviously, man, I cannot and will not take any credit for that whatsoever. That's not normal. That is totally a God thing, that he touched a little 2 or 3-year-old little boy and allowed him to have an ear for music like that. And I'm grateful for it, to say the least. Grateful for the folks that God has put in my path, since then. Anthony Berger was the guy for me. He was my hero.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's where it started for me. And man, I thank God that he had Anthony there when he did. Made a huge impact on my life. And there's been countless others. Man, Arthur Rice being one of them, which is really cool that, God sees fit for some things to come full circle like this, even this interview. just people that are genuine and take the time to truly invest in others. And so grateful for that. Anthony was the one who told my mom and dad, you need to get him in lessons. His ears are really good. There's no doubt. And he'll probably be fine just using his ears, but he needs to learn how to read. Anthony Berger was the one who encouraged them to put me in lessons. And again, the rest is kind of history. It just one thing led to another. And of course, it didn't hurt that mom and dad had me at every concert this side of the Mississippi River. Growing up, building relationships and connections, and as fate would have it, not fate, but totally the will of God, I think, or I know. My senior year of high school, wouldn't you know it, but the Kingsmen needed a piano player to go fill in for a couple of weekends because their guy was out of pocket. So my high school principal, Mr. Terry Howe, let me skip the first 2 weeks of high school. Don't tell anybody. And I got to get on the bus with my heroes, man. It's just the coolest thing. Totally crazy. The second night on the bus with the Kingsmen that weekend, we were in Seminole, Oklahoma at the big singing outdoors there. The Perrys were on the concert as well that night. So that's where I met Tracy and Libby.
Wow.
And, one thing leads to another. You build relationships and then they work out. So it's that simple, yet that complex too, as far as looking back on it and seeing how God orchestrated all of that and put all the pieces together. Just unreal.
That's one of the first questions that people ask always is, how can I get into this music? How can I get a job with a group? And most of the time it happens just exactly the way it's being in the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. And the only way you can do that is to just do it, And so, when people ask, you say, well, how do you do that? Well, if you're a singer, you sing every chance you get, every opportunity that you get. And that exposes you to so many people that you will never know that what God has in store for you. But if you sit at the house, they ain't nobody going to see you. I don't care how good a singer or anything else, so you got to get out there. And so that's a great story.
Well, I tell our kids, I call them kids. Well, they kind of are. I tell our college students here at the university, either I'm getting older or you're getting younger. And I think it might be both. But I tell them all the time, guys, preparation meets opportunity every single day. Whether it's like the dreams and ambitions that you're considering and that you're reaching for and all of those wonderful, big picture things. Or it might just be preparing for that test or making the most out of the moment with your son or daughter or whatever, fill in the blank. Preparation will meet opportunity, and it happens. And I totally agree, Arthur. You've got to be willing to prepare. And, the Kingsmen knew, I don't think Ray Dean Reese would have ever called me and said, hey, kid, can you come fill in for us for a couple of weekends if he did not trust that I knew their material. He couldn't put up. I mean, I was 17 years old, and he entrusted that to me. But he knew that I would, hopefully he knew that I would come through because I had proven myself to them. It doesn't just, magically appear in front of you. There is work, that has to go into the preparation part of what we do and who we are. And Bill Gaither is the one who has instilled that into us. He is such an incredible coach, and prides himself as a coach. We know Bill as an incredible songwriter, producer, arranger, MC, one of the greatest programmers of all time. No doubt about that. But I think if you really get down to it, I think what he prides himself in the most is being a great coach. Of course, he loves basketball, and I think he looks at us a lot of times as his team, and how can he encourage us and keep us all in the game and engaged. And man, and the whole preparation thing is, I have to give him credit for that. But it's true. And that's led to the Gaither, opportunity for me personally. I'm in my 11th year with Mr.
Wow.
Gaither, which is completely crazy to me.
Right.
So, the Gaither catalog is, man, it's pretty intense as far as how far back it goes. And you mentioned earlier the whole, I don't know what you said, something about the hardest working guy in gospel music. I don't know about the hardest working, but I can tell you this: sitting on the Gaither piano bench every night is super stressful. I'm probably the most stressed out piano player in gospel music for sure.
I'd say so.
Because at any point, I mean, he can turn around and say, hey, and he just gives me hand signals. If he puts fingers up, those are sharps. If he puts fingers down, those are flats.
Yeah.
I roll a chord and I pray. I pray really hard.
You're all about to know this song.
Like,
Yeah.
you're 6, I'm 37. Man, there's a lot of gap here as far as material.
Yeah.
But thank the good Lord, all I did growing up was watch Gaither Homecoming videos.
That's it.
Most of the time, I would say 98% of the time, when he starts singing, I kind of know where he's going.
Yeah.
But you just never know. And there have been times that he'll turn around and call something, and you just have to, as they say, hold on.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about that because, I mean, like Arthur and the Kingdom Heirs, there's a long library history there in that one group. And you're on the piano bench, not just with vocal band material, but you probably are crossing over into even trio type stuff. But then you get 4 or 5 artists or 15 or 20 artists that are crossing that stage. And at any point, you're probably in the back of your mind, like, at what point are we going to go back to 1992 and pull off track number 3 from that album, from that artist, that out of left field? And so, yeah, it's almost probably like close your eyes, roll the chord, pray, and hold on,
Yeah, and pop another Zantac, man. Seriously. All kidding aside, man, the first 2 or 3 years, I had never dealt with acid reflux and that kind of thing. And I attribute that to complete stress.
Yeah.
Just because because he's such a great coach. Great coaches, I think, make their players want to work hard for them.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one thing about Gaither, man, I want him to win.
Yeah.
I want us to win. I want whatever moment he feels led to create. I want it to win every single time. So I'm working extremely hard for him, and that puts some stress on your body, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a 75-year-old catalog. I mean, really, if you think about it, I'm not even half that old. So, but it's fun. I have found ways to make it, challenging on a personal level and make it more fun and fulfilling than stressful.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to what you said, the cross-section, the intersection of preparation and opportunity. And if you're talking to a student, and obviously you don't have to name names or divulge any private moments there, but have you ever had a kid come up to you and they just say, yeah, but you're Matthew Holt. Yeah, but you're professional times 2 times 3 in this thing. I'm just a kid, and I don't think I'm going to amount to much. You're expecting too much of me or something. Have you ever had a kid that just felt like they were less than, and you had to say, listen?
Absolutely. Yeah. It happens. It happens frequently. And I find different ways to encourage them. I mean, we're all different. We all have levels of talent, I guess, if you want to call it that. God has certainly touched and blessed each individual life, I think, in a very special way. I'm called to do the things that God has called Matthew Holt to do, not Arthur Rice or Daniel Britt. We all have, our callings, and they're all super important. If a college student comes in my office today and says, what you just said, man, I'm not you, and I don't have as much this or as much that. I love to tell this story. When I auditioned for Mr. Gaither, I was up at their studios in Indiana. And I think at that point he had kind of decided that I was going to be the guy. He hadn't told me that yet, but I think he had decided. I tell you what he did. he left the audition and he went up to his office. He didn't tell me what he was doing, and he got back down there into the studio. He was gone for 15 or 20 minutes, and he called Tracy Stuffle during those moments. And he told me, he said, I just got off the phone with Tracy. And I said, oh, really? Well, how was he? He said, Tracy Stuffle told me that if Matthew Holt's in the studio auditioning, to look no further, you have found your man. And Bill said, oddly enough, he said you were really talented and you could definitely do the job, musically. But he went on to say, you know what, that kid was never late to the bus. And we lived in Morristown and he lived in McKenzie, and that was a 6-hour drive for him as a 19-year-old kid. And he was always the first one there. And man, that made me proud to hear those things. I never heard that before, things that you don't maybe sometimes think folks are looking at or talking about behind your back. But man, just being there, showing up, being willing to be early instead of right on time, can go a long way. And again, that's part of the preparation, especially when you're driving 6 hours. You gotta plan ahead. Nashville traffic, Knoxville traffic, every single week, So that's just one little way, that I can encourage someone else. It's sometimes those little things that add up. One of my college professors, Miss Nancy Matheson is her name, sweet little white-haired lady who lives in Hernando, Mississippi now. Man, she always encouraged me as a musician, but more so, as the person who, has possession of all of these gifts and abilities that obviously God has given to me and to us. She told me every day, to whom much is given, much is required.
Yep.
To whom much is given, much is required. She's like, your talent's only going to take you so far, son. And she's so right. And I've seen, on the flip side of your question, I have also seen some of the most incredibly talented young people come through our program here at the university. And if a group manager called me today, there is no possible way I could recommend them, not based on their talent, right, but based on everything else. So those things matter, and they're just as big of a deal in that preparation as your talent. So
I heard Eldridge Fox was talking, was doing an interview or something, and somebody asked something about me, and he didn't say anything about my singing. He didn't say anything about my playing or anything. He said, let me tell you something about Arthur. He said, Arthur is the guy that if there's something broken on the bus, or if there's something that is like a doorknob is loose, so most people just go right on. He said, Arthur will stop, go get something and fix it. And, that I'd never thought it, that was just, just it, but you're exactly right. It's funny. The things that make impressions on people are sometimes the things that you don't even think about. And, but that makes the biggest impression upon people.
Man, that's good. Matthew Holt's been our guest today, Southern Gospel News Podcast. Matthew, we're gonna keep listening out for you, and man, the inspiration you brought today, not surprised at all by it, but certainly grateful, and keep up the good work at the university too. We didn't get to touch on that much, but I know it's good work there, and we'll see you in a concert near us soon.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Hey, this is Darren Sutherland. I miss being with you guys, but we're in good hands with Daniel Britt and Arthur Rice on SGNP.
Southern Gospel News Podcast, back here with Arthur Rice. I'm Daniel Britt. Matthew Holt, our guest today. And I kind of mentioned that, who would have thought we would have got inspiration from a piano player, man? That was good. But you're right. And really, when it comes down to it, we have different callings, we have different giftings. But something I think we can all do is show up and be faithful and helpful and kind humans with each other. And that goes a long way.
It really does. It really does. And people don't put the importance on it that it carries, but it really matters. and it really does matter to just show up.
That's it. That's it. Well, Arthur, until next time, we'll do it again down the road here. But for Darren Sutherland, I'll ask the big question here as we close it out. What's wrong with living right anyway?
Not one thing.
Just preach Jesus, born and crucified and risen from the dead. Just preach Jesus as he paid for sin with the precious blood he shed. Lord and Savior, King of kings, Son of God and Son of man. Just preach Jesus until Jesus comes again. Just preach Jesus until Jesus comes again.
You have been listening to SGNP. Please leave a review, tell your friends and neighbors about our show, and leave that 5-star review. SGNP is currently ranked as one of the top gospel music podcasts globally by Feedspot.com. SGNP is produced by BG Ad Group and BG Podcast Network of Marietta, Georgia. For more information or production help on your podcast, call them at 770-874-3200.